Good morning. Happy Friday, and welcome into the number one group of six college football show on the planet. This is the Group of Five Guys presented by FanDuel, and our mission is to be the voice for the group of six football programs, the voice that the mainstream sports media absolutely refuses to be. We need your help to do that. Make sure you hit the follow button on all the social platforms at Group of Five Guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Believe Network, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the little notification bell, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a 5-star rating. Tell your family and friends all about us. On this final conference preview episode, we take a look at the Sun Belt. Hope you enjoy the show. This is the Group of Five Guys, and we are coming to you live.
They got Old Dominion week 3, and ODU is by no means a layup. Group of Five Guys told me that, so that has to be true.
We looked at each other, we was like, Mike, the best place to be is a Group of Five. So I'm sitting here with the Group of Five guys, right?
Troy has won, it's been a winner, and it's a special place, so it's why you want the job.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
Those across there, you want to have this thing packed out, have the student section packed out, giving those guys hell on the sideline. I mean, that's part of it. I mean,
win or lose, like we're winning the tailgate.
There's no better place to be developed in this country than Boise State.
Jeff, can I just start the show today by saying, just want to let the people in on our world. So we prepare and everything totally independent of each other. Okay. And we show up here about quarter to 6 Eastern, quarter to 5 Central time. And whatever each other is wearing, like that's what we're going with. Like, this is all independent. Well, Jeff and I, and typically for me, like I go into my closet, I'm looking at all my hats and shirts, and I'm trying to think, what don't I wear often, or what haven't I worn in a long time, or which team do I want to kind of show some love to today? And so I came in here wearing a Do Right Irk Russell t-shirt and a Coastal Carolina hat. And then as the screens turn on, here's Jeff, got the same damn outfit on. And then he's still wearing it.
I'm still wearing it because my closet is inside of my house. I'm in a shipping container that we have fitted to be.
Jeff's in the guest pool house.
That's right. The dog house, as we call it.
Mansion. Yeah, right. Yeah, mine's just down the hall. 15th door on the left is the one I go into, and then. But yeah, it was pretty funny because I was thinking, I don't wear Coastal stuff all that often, and I actually like that hat a lot. That's a great, subtle hat, you know what I mean? It's a really good looking hat. And then I went in, and then I thought this could be what they might call sacrilegious or blasphemous to wear an App State t-shirt and a Georgia Southern hat, but that's neither here nor there. It's Sunbelt time, Jeff.
It is. It means we're at the last leg of this conference preview series, and week 0 is upon us next week. College football kicks off, despite what some of the talking heads will try and lie to you to say that college football has not started yet until week 1. You had some people on social media saying, well, 0, it has no value. So therefore college football starts week 1. Well, there's a couple massive games in week 0 with huge implications for teams. So it starts next week. That's all I know.
Yeah. And if you haven't checked them out already, make sure you go back on our YouTube channel and check out American preview we did on Wednesday, Pac-12 preview we did on Monday. Then last week, Mountain West, Conference USA, Maction, all those available on the YouTube channel. Make sure you check those out. Look, if nothing else, make sure you know about some players to keep an eye on, some coaches to keep an eye on, and some teams that, in your non-conference slate, when you're looking at some of your schedules, a lot of times people think, oh, well, that should be a win. Well, hold on now. It's in our preview. A lot of people, Virginia Tech fans, were looking at Old Dominion thinking, thank God, we got a rest week off. And we said, not so fast. And sure enough, ODU wins that game by 3 touchdowns. But anyway, a whole lot to talk about. Before we get into the Sun Belt, we had a little bit of breaking news, if you will, Jeff. And now a judge, is this in Louisiana, right? Is this where this judge is located?
I think this one, yes, particular. But you have a judge in Colorado, I believe, as well. That's putting out some rulings in cases or regulating some cases. So I don't know where it is, but go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
and basically what you have now is there are some players that would be eligible to return to college football even after they have played in the NFL, played professionally. Now, my big thing I want to get into is, first of all, are you not embarrassed if you're that player?
Should be.
To do that? You know what I'm saying? I always felt like, we had a couple of older guys that were either, in the military or something that were on the team. And I always thought, like, that must be weird. You'd be like 27 years old, you got a wife and kids, but like you're out here hanging out with the college kids all day. I always thought that must be weird for them. But now you're going to have people that thought they were good enough and obviously were good enough for an NFL team to take a chance on you. And then it doesn't really work out. So then you think, well, let me go back over here. And I don't get it.
It's very odd. And at this point, I almost want it to just be so egregious that we just blow the entire thing up and reshape and remake college football. So I'm kind of for this because it's gonna have to be something so ridiculous, and I would never want anyone to get hurt, but like you're gonna have 26-year-old people, grown men, playing against 18 or 19-year-olds that are just out of high school. That's an 8-year difference. And then you talk about, some of these players, like the kid from LSU or was a former LSU player, like he's probably good enough to be a practice squad player where you're making $260,000 a year. It's a practice squad player. Pretty good money. I'd take that in a heartbeat. But he could probably go back if a team's willing to sign him and make, I don't know, 600, 700, maybe $1 million. It just depends.
Yeah.
I mean, a warm body on a SEC rosters, I think you're making 200 to 250 now. You're not even sniffing the field. You're basically a practice squad for the SEC. So it's awful. It's ridiculous. And then you got these guys that are looking like 40-year-old grown men. Well, are they going to be going to the frat and sorority parties, Sprouse? Is that what they're going to be doing? Because that's a whole nother layer. And that's probably what is going to have to happen. Either something off the field or somebody gets like hurt on the field because you have such a physical like advantage.
Yeah. And it's, again, everybody always wants to blame the NCAA for things. But every time you just get lawyers and judges involved. I mean, you know my rule in life, Jeff. Anytime there's lawyers, judges, and national media involved, go the other way as quick as you possibly can. And it's a shame because what you're gonna like, I'm not one to sit here and say that, college football's dying, and it's because I'm still gonna watch. Okay, but you're getting close to having people run the other way when it comes to college football with all of this just ridiculousness, if you will. With everything, not just this, with every rule and judge's ruling that comes down, 99% of the world is just like, oh, that's so stupid. But
here's
the lawyers and the judges like it.
Well, here's the last piece, and this is where it falls at the feet of the programs and the coaches, in my opinion. Because if the coaches just got together on their own and be like, we are going to stand together, we are not going to sign a 26, 25-year-old player that has actively played in the NFL, whether it was just preseason, like whatever the case may be, or he's on a practice squad, like they are getting paid. They are playing professional football, not going to school. They've graduated, or some of them may not have. But it's like, if they would just not sign players, it wouldn't matter what the court ruled on. But they're going to, because you have some teams that, it's their coaches, their livelihood, they want to win at all costs, and they got the pocketbooks to do it. But that's where integrity comes in, Sprouse. Lack of morals, lack of integrity.
Yeah. Morals, integrity, and common sense have become really, really rare in today's world. Jeff, I know we got to get into the Sun Belt. I know. Don't be upset here, Jeff. But I also wanted to talk about one other thing before I forget, because I'm not going to put this in a show outline. But it pisses me off about the national media and about social media. Two different things happened over the last couple of days. One is, did you see the Colorado strength coach video?
I did.
Okay, whatever. I'm not going to talk about that. We can talk about that another time. Talk about Coach Prime and all that stuff another time. But what I found hilarious was the video goes out by Colorado football and it goes viral for all the wrong reasons. Well, and then for 3 days, just every single outlet is just jumping on that train, like posting it and posting it with the intention of getting the negative comments.
Yeah.
And that's the part that pisses me off, because first of all, I don't care what you think about the coach. I mean, it is what it is. But these media outlets intentionally will put a positive headline, right, knowing that they're going to get cooked in the comments for clicks, and they do it 3 days late. And then the other thing was, I know there's it's like simultaneous. It's like they get together at a convention and say, hey, we're all going to talk about this, make it continue to go viral. And then we're going to get mad when people have negative things to say, knowing that we posted it to purposely get negative comments. But the other thing was, everybody talks about no fall weddings and don't go to the pumpkin patch and this and that, right? This is a big thing. I mean, Pate is probably the biggest proponent of no fall weddings. And most people, college football fans, they engage, they click, they laugh, they chuckle, ha, ha, ha. But then I noticed the last 2 days, again, simultaneously, like multiple social media accounts all of a sudden are coming out of the woodworks saying the opposite thing. And they all say it at the same time. And it just really bugs me when people from different outlets.
Collusion.
It is, Jeff. It absolutely is. And you wonder, and that type of, the reason I bring it up is because that type of collusion and working together to make a certain topic go is the same thing that happens every preseason and every postseason and all season long when we're trying to promote a certain Heisman Trophy winner that plays defensive back, a certain playoff contender, a certain number one pick, right? We're trying to, they push this so hard. And I swear, Jeff, if I didn't know any better, I would think that people are actually colluding on some of these topics.
That's how propaganda works. It's how
it's almost like when people are knocking on your door telling you they'll give you a free dozen donuts if you get a certain medication, Jeff.
Well, that, or it's the same tactics that the Nazis used before World War II started, Sprouse. You say it enough times in front of enough people are going to believe it.
Yeah. Anyway, Jeff, we got to talk about the Sun Belt. Last year, big year for the Sun Belt. James Madison to the college football playoff, beating Troy in a blizzard at home. On to the CFP. Not a great showing against a good Oregon team, but many people would say, hey, they performed better against Oregon than anybody else did. So, that's what it is. And then you got all kinds of, coach leaves, Billy Napier's in, Ryan Beard is in at Coastal, Blake Anderson in at Southern Miss. So you lost some coaches in the Sun Belt too. Couple of them by promotion, if you will, or moving on. One of them by being fired. La Tech into the Sun Belt, Texas State out. So how will La Tech do year one in the Sun Belt West? But Jeff, moving on, what is your biggest storyline or question mark going into 2026 Sun Belt Conference?
I think it has to be, can James Madison reload and stay atop of this conference? Obviously, Billy Napier coming back to the Sun Belt is a huge storyline, but having the phenomenal season they had a year ago, pretty much running the Sun Belt, one of the top teams in the entire country, you lost a lot of production on both sides of the ball, and you lost coaching staff continuity. So that's my question mark, because a lot of people still have James Madison very high as favorites in this conference in the East. Can Billy come in and pick up right where Chesney left off? That's my question. Because if he's not, and he can't, to me, it looks like the East is pretty wide open.
Yes, it does. Jeff, that's exactly what I had. And to add to it, if James Madison, here's the question, right? Because a lot of people like Old Dominion, some people like some other teams in the East, but you look at other teams like Old Dominion, you think, well, certainly they're not going to be as good, right? They're losing Colton Joseph, they're losing all this. But the way I look at it is, what if James Madison takes 3 steps back and Old Dominion only takes 1 step back? And even though they might not be as good as they were last year, maybe they're better than the best team in the conference this year and gives them their chance to win, even though the actual team was better a year ago. And that's what I've been talking about for a long time, especially in today's landscape. It's got to be the perfect storm, and everything has to hit on all cylinders. If you're an Old Dominion fan, last year you're thinking this is a historic season. This is the best team we maybe have ever had. But unfortunately for you, James Madison was just a little bit better. And both teams had a team that was hitting on all cylinders at the same time. And then one team doesn't get to win. And that's football, and that's life, and that's why we love this game so much, and that's why we don't like some of these changes that are coming.
Well, somebody's got to fill that void, when the power vacuum, opens up. If it's not James Madison, whether you like the Dukes or not, they've been a top team in the East pretty much since they've come up, right? Since their inaugural year when they couldn't go to a bowl and couldn't win it. So if they aren't a top team or have a drop off, somebody's got to fill that void. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, as you know, if you've seen the show before, we're going to break this down into a couple of tiers. We're going to do favorites. We're going to do contenders. We're going to do a dark horse or 2 or 3, or what did I have? 5 in the American dark horses. And then we're going to talk about everybody else real quick. We'll make a championship prediction, and then we'll get on with it and enjoy our weekend. So favorites, I think you still got to start with James Madison, Jeff. Look, Billy Napier has this nickname, Sunbelt Billy, and it's used in a negative connotation. Well, guess what? The dude had a ton of success in the Sunbelt. So sometimes, sure, he maybe failed or didn't do so well at Florida, but could that also be the fact that they weren't in alignment at Florida with the administration the whole time, with the fans turning on them too quick? Like, say what you want, but every year Napier was there, they talked about how great his recruiting class was. And they also, every preseason, talked about how impossible their schedule was. Well, and then they performed about that way against this impossible schedule, and they fired him. So, that's neither here nor there, but why are you going to complain and say your schedule's too hard and then be mad at the coach when they don't win all the games on that schedule? But anyway, like, he's proven he can win and win big in this conference.
Yeah. Yeah, he has. And then I still like a lot of their production offensively. Pettaway's back. I think it can be a game changer at the running back position. Now that it's really, to me, he's going to be the guy with Herman and Cromwell and the rest of that group kind of spelling him, and he's fully capable of doing it. Quarterback position, Barnett is gone. You got Evans and Coleman, and pretty much as of yesterday, of everything I was reading, it's down to a 2-man race. Mm-hmm. I think it ends up being Coleman, mainly because he's the more proven passer. He's got a ton of experience and great numbers when he was at Richmond. Evans is more of the dual threat guy. He's going to be able to take it down and run it. Both big kids, one at 6'4", one at 6'3". I just think to start the season, you're going to be able to throw the ball. Like, you got to have somebody who can come in and be efficient. Now, maybe Evans has improved, and he's been doing that throughout camp. And at that point, then if they're pretty equal in the pass game, I'm going to go with Evans because his legs give you an added element, possibly that Coleman doesn't have. But that's a big question mark for me offensively. I like their receivers. I talked about Corey Scott coming over from West Florida. I think he's going to have a monster year. So I like your receiver room. I love your running back room. Offensive line is going to be pieced together. Who's my quarterback? Who's going to be my leader? I think it'll be Coleman when they start the year.
Yeah, Jeff. And on the O-line, what have we been saying? I think every conference episode we've said this about the O-line. It's like, yeah, they got a couple of transfers that have started some games. You got guys that have played a lot of ball, but they have an all-conference center that's been there. Zach Greenberg, the all-conference center, he's coming back. So when you have a leader, especially at center, on the offensive line who's making all the calls and the protections and all the things. That should help those guys to gel quicker. Now, Jeff, on defense, I don't know how they do it, but they lost one Bush in the middle and they got another one.
Bush.
I mean, how do these guys do it? Kells Bush, by the way, wears number 88. Like, when I talk about the single digit interior, you got to be a psychopath to wear 88 on the defensive line, because, D linemen typically, yes, they're physical. Yes, they play hard and all that thing, but they are a little bit, they like their single digits. They like to look pretty and all that. Do you go wear 88? I mean, dude, wide receivers don't want to wear numbers in the 80s.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You got it on the D line, but Kells Bush, I think he'll anchor the defensive line. I think they'll still be really good there. And again, we'll see. Like, you almost feel like there has to be a slight step back, but maybe not, Jeff.
I mean, I don't see how you go from allowing 69 rushing yards a game last year and with the production you lost, just pick right back up. So I expect there to be somewhat of a drop-off. I still think there'll be a good defense. Amar Thomas on the outside as a senior returning. I think he'll have a big year. Gannon Weathersby, a lot of production returning from last year. I think he'll be kind of anchor that linebacking core. So they got some guys coming back. I do like some of their continuity there. You got a lot of transfers as well coming in, especially at in the secondary. I just have to think that as good as that defense was, they're going to take a step back.
Yeah, Jeff, and no Power 4 teams on the schedule. And you also have to imagine, no matter who it is, whether it's Liberty or San Diego State or somebody that's going to challenge them in the non-con, you got to think there's not going to be another episode of trying to run Matt Sluka and Lonzo Barnett, and have that 2-quarterback system like they did. They really blew the game for them against Louisville. But you look at their schedule, Liberty at home, massive game for multiple reasons, right?
Rivalry game too. So you're going to have to be ready to go if you're James Madison. Like, there's no time to waste. Now, I know in conference that doesn't make a big difference, but for your if you're trying to get back to the CFB, it does.
Yeah, no doubt. And then you're at San Diego State. That's a really good game. Looking forward to that one in week 3. But that stretch is tough right there. At San Diego State, at Old Dominion, home versus Marshall, and then at Georgia Southern. Going there, regardless of how they are, is going to be tough.
It's a very difficult schedule to me.
It is, man.
Because you mentioned the first 6 weeks, really. I mean, outside of Wagner, on the road to San Diego State, you got you're going coast to coast.
Yep.
ODU is one of the top teams in this conference and in this division. Marshall, I know you get them at home, but again, I'm very high on Marshall. Georgia Southern, I think they'll have the potential to sneak up and beat a lot of teams. App State on the road, whether you think App State is good or not, that is a rivalry game. And then you get Troy. Like, this is not an easy schedule, and if they are not ready to go right off the rip, you could be in trouble quickly with not only the fan base because they have a high expectation, but you start with 2 and 3 or something crazy. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, but with this schedule, like, I could see it if you're not ready to roll. And then what momentum does that carrying the rest of the season?
Yeah. Going to be fun.
Yes, it is.
In the West, I think I went back and forth on my favorite for the West, but I think that the consensus favorite in the West is the Cajuns at Louisiana. And if it turned out to be favorite versus favorite, right? What an opportunity that would be for us fans to see a Billy Napier-led James Madison team go play the Cajuns, his former program, in a championship game. But, Jeff, Louisiana has, like, say what you want about Coach Des, but they haven't had the huge, seasons, 11-1 conference championship seasons, but they've kind of kept the same thing going from a culture perspective. Here's the thing. It's going to be the best O-line in the conference again. And when Louisiana has a top O-line, I mean, you're talking multiple NFL guys on that offensive line. 4 starters come back, along with they brought in a lot of depth pieces in the portal. The question is, who's going to be the running back to carry the load? And the other question is, can Lunch Winfield remain healthy? My fear for Louisiana is I feel like Lunch Winfield is going to be the team leader in rushing, and that worries me from a health perspective. Okay, so that's what I'm worried about for Louisiana. We got to get a back to come in and be the true number one guy and get that pound the rock and then let Lunch Winfield go. But, he was hurt last year. And if he's running all the time, like you're going to get banged up.
Yeah, that's where he's just got to be smart, right? Like, get down, slide, get out of bounds. You are too valuable to this team. I think this is probably the best quarterback in this conference. I think it's him and Del Rio, kind of 1 and 2 for me. But he's a game changer. And with that offensive line, you got Anthony Reagan coming over from Howard, who had a productive year a year ago, 5.5 yards per carry. But on the outside, I was high on Shelton Sampson a year ago. 6'4", 206 pounds. Had an okay year in 10 starts, but I thought he underwhelmed. And part of that was Winfield's got to improve in the pass game. But they got pieces on the outside. They got Winfield at quarterback with his legs, with his arms. Like, this offense has the potential to be unstoppable in this conference, despite whether you feel like their running back room is not very deep. They have the potential. Can they live up to that potential? To me, that's the question mark. Winfield's got to stay healthy. He's got to be smart, and he's got to improve his efficiency in the pass game. If he can do those two things, look out, because this offense is going to be very, very good.
Well, Jeff, and another defensive line that's got 2 300-pounders on the interior. So what's that tell you, right there? It's going to tell you they're at least going to make it a focus to stop the run. So recipe football 101, you can talk about this with any team. Can you run the ball? Can you protect the ball? And can you stop the run? Recipe for success. But Jeff, and the other part about Louisiana is their schedule, to me, is one of the, I hate to say it easy. I hate to say it, but
it's a great draw.
It's a great draw. You get Georgia State and Coastal out of the other side of the conference. You get USC. Sure, that theoretically will be tough, not only, with going out there, with that squad, but going out there and that travel will be tough. But Lamar, UAB, and Charlotte in your non-conference. I mean, Charlotte, maybe they'll be better. UAB, maybe they'll be better, but probably not on par with the Cajuns.
I wouldn't think so. And you get Arkansas State at home. You get Troy at home. South Alabama. Mm-hmm. Like you got a great draw. Not only in your non-conference outside of USC, but you got it in conference too. So when you have the pieces that are coming back offensively, that offensive line, you got Winfield, and then you look at this schedule. To me, you got two of the most important things. You got a lot of continuity, and you got a great schedule draw. That's like the vast majority of it. Now it's your job to live up to your potential, which I think they will.
And Jeff, I think they're going to be favored in every single game that they play outside of Southern Cal.
Yeah.
Every single one. Depending, right? I mean, late in the season, we'll see. Maybe somebody ends up being a lot better than we think. Troy will obviously be one to watch right there.
Randomly, not really randomly, but that Louisiana Tech game that's on the road, that's in the middle of Arkansas State and Troy, that's a sneaky game for me. Because that's La Tech wants to make a splash in this conference, and you get the Cajuns at home. I'd imagine that'd be a good, travel game for Cajun fans. So we'll see.
Cajun fans, and I should have done a little research here, Jeff, but isn't that La Tech versus Louisiana? I believe they call that the battle for the red stick or something like that, which is you go back to Native Americans where they would like sacrifice something on a red and it was red with blood. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I made that up. Maybe it came to me in a dream, Jeff, but I'm pretty sure that's what that's called, right, which a lot of these rivals, right? You go back to their origins and it's, oh my. Yeah. And now we're over here worried about saying something's called deeper than hate or 100 miles of hate. Ooh, you know what I'm saying? We got peewee kids that the coaches are setting them up to fight at the middle of the field. And we're worried about using the word hate. And we're worried. We got 28-year-old men that are going to come back and play college. And we're worried about a certain word because it's just too dangerous.
Wow.
Anyway, that's all I have as my favorites, Jeff. I did one in the East, one in the West for a favorite.
I had the same favorites.
And you had the same too.
Yep.
Look at
those
us.
are the two clear-cut favorites in my opinion.
Not only, Jeff, did we wear the same outfit this morning that I had to change, but we also had the same favorites. Go to contenders. A lot of people have these guys as a favorite. I'm going to stick with contenders, but Old Dominion. And here's the thing for me about Old Dominion. I think they're going to be good. But like I said earlier in the show, I think offensively, there's probably going to be a step back. Colton Joseph did so much for that team. That being said, Jeff, it's about the defense for Old Dominion.
Mm-hmm.
They're good. They're good at every level. DeAndre Lynch, Javin Gibson, Chris Forbes anchor probably the best defensive line in the conference. And then Koa Neatala. He was injured last year, 88 tackles, 3.5 sacks in 2024. So like they lose guys. And then Mario Easterly led the team in tackles with 80 at this third level. They lose guys like Jason Henderson and stuff, but those guys have been hurt all the time anyway. And these guys are the ones that actually led the team in stats. Like Henderson hadn't been healthy in like 3 years, and he's gone. So like these are the guys that have been making the plays. So to me, they're good on the D line. They're good at linebacker. They're good at safety. Good at corner. But how do you replace Colton Joseph? Can you score any points?
Yeah, and that's my biggest concern is losing not only that production, but a player that was just so dynamic. He could run it, he could throw it. How do you replace him? It's hard to. You can't, right? But you got Roche back at running back. I think he's going to have a monster year, 5.7 yards per carry a year ago. Finished the year with consecutive 100-yard games. Heineken, I think, is going to be the guy. He was the Cure Bowl MVP. I like who they brought in at receiver. They went a lot of FCS guys with Agnew and Harris. Harris coming from Mercer, who had a monster year. And then you get a few of your guys back, your role players back from last year. So I think they'll be able to figure it out. And that defense is going to allow them, I believe, especially early on, to let that offense kind of figure out what is going to be their identity. How are they? Who's going to be the guy? How do we want to structure this thing? But with that coaching staff being in coming back, I love the continuity there. The culture is already set. So I got them as a contender for me.
Yeah, that's where I got him. The one thing too, not just Colton Joseph, but they don't have a returning start on the offensive line. If I saw that and read that correctly, so that you worry a little bit about. And nobody's really seen some real live action from a starting standpoint on the offensive line. But then, Jeff, you look at their schedule. Not as easy as the Cajuns at Virginia Tech. Well, they get Norfolk State. That's Mike Vick and them. So, they've been not very good. At Virginia Tech, Old Dominion's kind of owned the P4 teams in the state of Virginia for a little bit now. But you'd think Virginia Tech would be better getting James Franklin over there. East Carolina at home. That's got the potential to be a banger of a game. Just a physical, defensive, flying around game. And then they come back the next week, they get James Madison at home. So that's a positive for them. They get both of those games at home. Then you're at Georgia State. We'll talk about probably in about 30 minutes. At App State, regardless of how App's going to be, going to Boone will be tough. Georgia, the East to me is a little tougher than the West this year as it stands right now, because your teams that are down, have been down, still play in really tough places to play. App, Georgia Southern, Coastal, right? Like they're going to be tough regardless of how good those programs are this year. But I think when your defense is the anchor of your team, the strong suit of your team, playing at home on the road is a little less important.
Yeah. And similar to James Madison's schedule, like they got to be ready to go right off the rip. I think Virginia Tech will be big and physical. ECU is one of the better teams in the American. And then you open up conference. Yeah, it's at home, but it's James Madison. That game has huge implications.
Mhm.
You also get Marshall at home, which I like. And then the end of their, schedules like UConn's doesn't really matter. And then you close the season with Southern Miss. So for them, it's like, depending on what happens in that middle part of the year, their destiny is going to be kind of written at their point. Like, if they don't take care of business, they're hoping other teams are going to have to lose in those last several weeks to make the championship game. So it's crucial that they get through the first part of their non-con and are ready to roll.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And you had them as a contender, or did you have them somewhere else?
Contender.
Yep. The other one of the other contenders the contender I have just below Louisiana at the moment in the West is Troy. Well, first of all, what a job Jared Parker has done to keep this thing rolling at Troy. Like, I don't think anybody really expected them to just, they miss a year and then they're right back in the championship game. Sorry, Jeff, it's thundering like crazy. I've had my internet repaired. Now it's lightning. Now my power will probably go out altogether.
Hope not.
But Goose Crowder, Tucker Kilcrease, both coming back. Is anybody going to take command of the QB1 spot? And that's honestly one of the big problems you have when you don't get as many live practices in camp, because you don't get enough sample size for these coaches to make a decision or for one to really step out in front of the other. Jeff, here's something interesting about them, though. They bring in the offensive coordinator from Tarleton State. They call this offense the veer and shoot, whatever.
Interesting.
But it's the Josh Heupel offense. It's very similar to what we used to run under Buster at middle. It's go and gun, 4 wide receivers spread out wide, freaking inside, outside zone with the little quick pass tag on the end of it. That's what it is. And it's tempo. Zone runs, quick passes, zone runs. And, I hate them damn quick passes when you quarterbacks do that crap. You run inside zone with the X tag. You throw the thing out, it never goes anywhere. I don't think I've ever seen it work, Jeff, but it's always an option. The run, it does open up the run game because it spreads everybody out and it takes people out of the box. But be interesting to see Troy run a little more tempo, a little more spread out. We'll see which quarterback's going to be able to handle that the best.
Yeah, it'll be kind of unusual because when I think of Troy, I'm thinking let's, not all the time, but let's get under center. Let's pound the rock with a great run game. We'll be physical at the point of attack, which I still think they will be. But Gavin Griffin comes over from East Mississippi Community College. I really like Jordan Levitt. I think he'll make a big jump this year. And spreading those teams out, you should be able to get advantageous boxes in the middle, 5-man boxes. So that's where your run game comes in, unless your pass game is non-effective. Then it's like, if I can just play man-to-man on the outside and I can load the box, then what are you going to do? So is it Kilcrease? Is it going to be Crowder? I feel like they'll roll with Crowder. But honestly, I think they're good with either guy they go. I just don't necessarily like that from like a leadership standpoint. But both guys have been around for so long too. So like it could work.
And shout out to both of them too, right? Because that's typically the situation you see where both are pretty good, both are capable. And when one gets the nod, you typically see the other one leave.
Yeah.
And shout out to both of them for staying and competing year after year, right? But here's the other thing, Jeff, and I know this is going to come as a huge shock to Sunbelt fans and Troy fans and anybody listening. But Troy, in another rare occasion, has a hell of a pass rusher once again. How they just find him?
Donnie.
I don't get it. Yep, Donnie Smith Jr., 11 sacks a year ago. You don't typically see double-digit sacks a whole lot anymore. Like, as you're going through this, I see guys that have 4.5, 5.5 sacks, and I'm like, okay, this is your guy that's going to cause a lot of disruption. 11 sacks. I mean, come on, Jeff. It's won a game.
I drafted him in the G6 draft.
Yeah, good player. They're big on the interior of the defensive line. And then something to note for Troy before we get into their schedule a little bit. They got the best punter in the country, Jeff. So when you're talking maybe a question mark at quarterback, a little bit of a new offense, right? Maybe they do. You know how I feel. Maybe they run 3 quick passes in a row and get no yards and take up no time. Well, your punter can flip the field off that. Then that's not that big of a deal. if you can keep the field position battle going.
Yeah, I think I mean that's a the third phase of the game, right? That's super important. That I mean we can't gloss over sometimes. He's a real weapon for them. But I think defensively, you talked about Donnie, that Keno Jones coming over from Idaho had a hell of a year in 2025. So I think he'll kind of fit in and help shore up this linebacking core, which Troy for pass rushers and linebackers, I mean, that's LB and DNU in my opinion. So I think they'll be really good defensively. That offensive line is a big question mark for me, replacing pretty much their entire group. Can they figure it out early and quick? Because like you said, it's great. We can go fast and spread them out. But if we can't block, it's a big problem. It doesn't matter how fast you go. You go 3 and out, now your defense constantly on the field.
Jeff, and their schedule is interesting to me. Their non-conference, I like. I mean, Sam Houston, Alabama State, at Utah State will be tough going all the way out there. We'll see if they're any better. And then at Missouri, I mean,
winnable
again. Yeah, Missouri's good. No doubt about it. They're, according to the AP, they're a top 25 team, but they're not going to physically whip Troy. And Troy, of all people, Troy don't care. It doesn't matter who's the coach, who's on the roster. Like Troy will go into SEC country and get rolling. Now, the bad news is they draw at James Madison from the East, and then they get Georgia Southern at home from the East. But it's manageable. They don't really have a stretch that you're kind of sitting there thinking, oof, they might lose all of those, So I think they're in a good spot at Troy.
I like Troy. I don't necessarily like that Louisiana, James Madison, South Alabama, and Arkansas State are on the road. That's to me a bit difficult, but Troy can handle it. There's some road warriors.
Yeah, ain't no doubt about it. The other contender I had one more contender out of the East. Jeff, I think Marshall's got a chance to win the whole damn thing, buddy. I know I was going to put them as a dark horse, but then I know Phil Steele likes them a lot. They went 5-7 last year, but they lost 4 one-score games. And the obvious thing about Marshall is, you mentioned him, Carlos Del Rio Wilson, if not the best, probably the second best quarterback in this entire conference. But then you combine that, 41 combined starts on the offensive line, so I think they're going to be good there. And we talked to Tony Gibson. When we first met him, when he first got there, it was like, I don't know a lot about the guy, but I know that guy's intense. And guys like that are teams that play physical, hard-nosed football that wears down conferences and wears down teams. And now it seems, according to all the magazines and the all-conference teams, like they've got the talent behind that mentality and attitude. I think they're going to be really good, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm pretty fired up about the Marshall
Me too.
Thundering Herd. Del Rio Wilson is top of this conference as far as quarterback play goes. 2,000 yards a year ago, 17 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, another 6 TDs on the ground. So he's a dual threat quarterback that knows this offense. You got 4 offensive linemen returning. You got the best tight end probably in this conference in Toby Payne. So I expect him to have a good year. Adrian Norton on the outside, I think, is due for a monster year to step into that kind of number 1 role. Running back, Barbie and Lester, I think they're both capable backs. I think you'll see a lot of both of them. So offensively, outside of Louisiana, I think this is the most, potent offense that's ready with continuity, familiarity to come in and just go after it right off the rip.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on defense, Braden Ward had 5 sacks a year ago. See, here I go, 5 sacks. I'm like, it's a big time pass rusher. You compare to Donnie Smith with 11.
11.
But 5 sacks a year ago. And Jeff, they have a mammoth on the interior of their defensive line. It may be too big. McKalen Warren Jr., 6'4", 365. Now, I hadn't, in transparency, I hadn't watched any tape or anything, but I feel like you got to come down off of that a little bit. So I feel like that could be tough, especially in the event you play a team like Troy that's going to be throwing a quick screen out to the sideline and you're having to go back and forth. Gilmore and Marshall back at linebacker. My concern for Marshall is they play James Madison, Old Dominion, and Georgia Southern on the road. So they play the top 2, maybe potentially the top 3 teams from the East all on the road, Jeff. And they got to go to Penn State to open the season. And they get just a physical bunch in the Blue Raiders coming up there.
Well, no doubt about that Blue Raider game. That's the game you got to really keep an eye out for.
Make or break the season.
Well, no doubt about it. No, the thing is, you mentioned the road games. Obviously, that's not ideal from a schedule draw standpoint. But if I'm going to have that, having that quarterback that I trust, that I can count on, and has the ability to use his legs in those moments, that gives me a lot more peace looking at this schedule than, well, I don't know who my quarterback's going to be. Is he going to be rattled? Like Del Rio is a seasoned veteran. He's going to be coming in. But yeah, I think they're a contender in the East. And I agree with you. I think they do have a chance to win it all.
Yeah, I like them a lot. Jeff, did you have anyone else in the contender tier?
Let me look here. Let me go back.
I think you did. I think you might have had someone out west.
Oh no. There's so many teams in all these conferences now. Like, and I flip-flopped a bunch. Like I had certain teams here and there, and then I've changed them.
Well, I always, when I do it, I put them in the tiers just without looking at anything. Who I'm just thinking top of my head, like what they had last year, how they were. And then you get to digging, and it's really difficult when you have it in your head that a team should be good. And then you start looking through the roster and you're like, man, I want them to be good, but I'm not seeing it.
You know what, Sprouse? I do have another one. I had him as a dark horse. I'm like, I'm going to show them some love based off of a couple main factors. Is the Arkansas State Red Wolves. I think they're a contender in the West for a couple reasons. Trey Owens at quarterback coming over from Texas obviously didn't play, sat a bunch, but he's a 6'5", 220. The kid can throw it. Chauncey Cobb at the receiver position, I think he's a dynamic player, especially in the return game. They just have some guys on offense coming back, and I love their schedule draw. And Butch Jones, like, to me, this is his sixth year at Arkansas State.
Got to do it.
He was 7-6 a year ago. Like, I kind of feel like this is a bit of a make or break year for him, unless maybe that admin's happy with the job he's been doing. But
yeah.
I just think I have just a feeling that the Red Wolves are due, and I have him as a contender.
Jeff, they returned 4 starters on the O-line, and then they bring in a 5th guy as a Florida State transfer. He'll probably play left tackle. Yeah, man, Trey Owens, I feel like there's a lot of big quarterbacks this year.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it seem like we've been talking about that? I almost put him as a dark horse, but I had him in the everybody else category. With as many contenders and dark horses as I did in the American, I had to kind of counter that. So, all right. So you had Arkansas State as a contender. Any other contenders?
No, that was my last contender. I do want to say one more thing about them.
Yeah.
And it was their schedule, because you get Memphis obviously on the road, but I really like the way their schedule sets up. Like you West Georgia, TCU, that's not a crazy, like, I don't expect TCU to physically overwhelm them. Kennesaw State, they get them at home, could be tough. And then right off the rip, you get Louisiana. So if you get your offense figured out in those first couple weeks, like, if you can knock off Louisiana right off the rip, the conference is kind of yours, in my opinion, until you get to Troy in the last game of the season at home. So with their schedule and the pieces they brought in the portal, I don't know. I just have a feeling about them. I could be way wrong. This is a gut feeling, but I'm going to put them in the contender category.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Anyway, you got no more contenders. Onto the dark horse category. Jeff, I may resent this given my nickname. I think App State's got a chance, buddy.
Do you really?
I think the boys in Boone got a chance, Jeff. They lost 4 games last year by 1 possession. 3 of them by 3 points or less. Literally by a score, right? By a field goal wins it for 3 of those games. The problem is they were favored in 3 of those 4 one-possession games that they lost. Dow Loggins in year 2. He's got a quarterback coming in from Purdue, Malachi Singleton. Little bit of a limited sample size, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, ran for 200-something yards. A little bit of a dual threat guy. Obviously, we've talked about that opening up an offense. They brought in Chris Lofton from Gardner-Webb, 17 yards a catch last year at Gardner-Webb. Gardner-Webb wasn't very good, but 17 yards a catch, you'll take a guy like that. And then, Jeff, they were beat up with some injuries last year too. Like I know everybody is, and I don't want to make excuses for them. But on the offensive line, Tyreek Poindexter, he was going to be the starter at tackle, out for the year, game 1. He'll be back. They bring in Florida transfer Devin Manuel to be the other tackle. Should be stout on the offensive line. Jeff, and I like the D-line too. I don't know if you got anything. I don't know. You had App as everybody else or what?
No, I had him as a dark horse.
Yeah,
I wanted to show them some love for all the reasons you mentioned. Keep an eye out for Darren. I hope I pronounce his last name. Tight end Darren Fugit, 5th-year senior out of Lindenwood, 6'5", 240. I think he could be a great red zone threat for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, and then defensively, I like the D-line too, Jeff. The 2 defensive ends, Aiden Benton, 4.5 sacks last year. Caleb Sandstrom, 3.5 sacks last year. Colton Ferris is back, 101 tackles, 9.5 TFLs last year. I think this defense might start to look like some of those App State defenses from 3, 4, 5 years ago, right? Maybe a little undersized, fast, flying around all over the place. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but I'm just saying Boys and Boone might contend a little bit this year.
I can see it because I do like their schedule. It's a bit difficult, that ECU game right off the rip. NC State, that's again, that's not you should not get physically abused in that game. You got Charlotte, who I think they win. Maine, I think they beat obviously Maine. They get ODU at home. They get James Madison at home. Like those are great draws when you're talking about in conference. They do get South Alabama from the West. So we'll see. And you got to go, to Marshall, which is a monster game, which is the game of 75, which not saying we're going to go, but it's something we're looking into.
I'd love to go.
Yeah.
I'd love to go. All right. So I had him as a dark horse. You have anybody else as a dark horse?
So you got me jumping around. I did this conference by conference.
I mean,
Or
Jeff, we've been
division by
using the
division, I'm
same
sorry.
outline for these conference previews
No,
for 4 years.
Hold on now. This,
And all of a sudden
this
you're
is
out
the
of
one-
order.
This is the one conference that has
They do have the
divisions.
divisions. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, I do.
Let's hear about them.
I got Statesboro Sprouses, Georgia Southern Eagles, my friend.
I love it, Jeff. I love it.
And this is, Max Johnson coming over from North Carolina. I really like him. Just with the pieces they brought in, I know it's a transfer heavy, roster on both sides of the ball, but I love their conference and my computer just wigged out.
Well, here's the good news. I can talk about Georgia Southern, Jeff. Max Johnson might be, and it's a big if, he can stay healthy. He might be Clay Helton's best quarterback. He's jumped all over the place, but he might be Clay Helton's best quarterback that he's had at Georgia Southern. And their 2 best receiving targets missed most of last year. River Helms, the tight end, and Josh Dallas at wide receiver, both hurt last year. They'll be back, at least to start the season. It is an entire new offensive line, which leaves you worrisome a little bit, but they've all played some ball, just not together. We'll see how fast they can gel. Defense has got to be better. I mean, that defense was atrocious last year, Jeff. Atrocious. 459 yards a game, 32.3 points per game. Watch out for the pass rushing combo, Jeff. Defensive line combo. MJ Stroud, 6.5 sacks, 9 TFLs last year. And a transfer from Middle Tennessee, Anthony Bynum, 7 tackles for loss last year. Watch out for him down there in Statesboro. But I kept them out of it because I was real, I didn't want to feel like my heart led me to go with Georgia Southern. I mean, I've been calling them a dark horse for years, and so far it hadn't come to fruition for me.
Yeah, and a big thing for me was I like their schedule. I know they got the Clemson game, which it's going to be tough. Some people think Clemson have the ability to win it all this year. We'll see. And you're on the road at Jack State. But when you get into conference, you get James Madison at home, you get App at home, you get Marshall at home. And you get, and your draws from the other side, like Louisiana Tech. Troy on the road is difficult, but I don't know. You get your biggest East matchups at home in Paulson. The power of Paulson is a real thing.
It is a real thing. You got it. Is that your last dark horse? We're on to everybody else now.
No, I got one. I got one from the West.
All right, let's hear it.
I got South Alabama.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I'm just hoping and praying that Bishop Davenport can be consistent, because if he can be, I think he gives the Jaguars the ability to make a run at this thing. I really do. 2,000 yards a year ago, almost 70% completion, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and then another 9 on the ground. He's a dual threat guy. I think whenever you have that ability at quarterback, it gives you a chance to win. And I'm rooting for him. I don't know. I just have a soft spot for him.
Yeah.
I put him as a dark horse.
I've got them kind of doing the same thing they did last year, where they'll play up against the good teams and then they'll play down against the bad teams, and so they'll lose a lot of games, but they'll lose them close to really good teams. That's why I kept them. That's why I kept them in the everybody else category. So let's roll through everyone else here, Jeff. Let's go to Coastal, the other team in the East that's been down, a typical East power that's kind of been down. Ryan Beard comes over from Missouri State. I think it's going to be a tough year for him. I'll be quite honest with you. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of inexperience. The schedule, I think, is about as brutal as it can get. They're at West Virginia, at Delaware, and Liberty at home in the Chadwell Bowl in the non-con. But they have a stretch. I mean, this is their schedule, Jeff. Delaware, Liberty, Georgia Southern, at Marshall, App State, and they got at Georgia State. I think they'll win. Then Old Dominion, Arkansas State, at Louisiana, at James Madison. Who are you going to beat?
Yeah. It's very difficult when you look at that schedule. And, I do like Beard coming over. I think he'll do a really good job. It's just going to take him a couple years. But, yeah, one of the most brutal draws.
And I figured you'd like the quarterback, a JUCO kid, Jeff.
Trust me, I love him. And he had great production, almost 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, which you don't want to see that number so high, especially in the JUCO ranks. But, and then Deuce Bailey comes over from Missouri State as well. I don't know. I think they're at least a year or two away. I do.
Yeah, I agree. Georgia State, last one in the East, 1-11 last year. They were underdogs going into every single one of those 11. The good news is Cam Brown played pretty good at quarterback. I thought 13 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Jeff, how do you go 1-11 with a quarterback that throws 13-1, right? They lose almost all production at their skill spots. O-line is probably the best group, right, on their team. Bunch of starts under their belt. Defense is just full of transfers. You just hope, if you're Georgia State, that Del McGee can hit on those transfers in the same way Jerry Mack did down the street.
Yeah. And, I do like their non-conference slate. Kennesaw State, that should be a fun game. Kind of, the Atlanta ball, if you want to call it. UCF is not a crazy game on the road. NIU, I'm wondering if they'll be favored in that game, to be honest with you. You get ODU at home to start it off, but this is where I think their schedule is extremely difficult. It's very front-heavy conference-wise. ODU at home, James Madison on the road, Arkansas State's on the road. You do get Tulsa at home. You got to go to App, which is always tough to play in Boone, and you got Marshall on the road, and then you draw Louisiana from the West. So, tough draw.
Yeah, tough one. New team to the Sun Belt, Jeff. La Tech. First year in the Sun Belt. Sonny Cumbie coming back. They had a bunch of injuries, a couple of 1-point losses last year in Conference USA. Blake Baker, the quarterback, 1,200 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, played in 8 games. They got a big-time tight end in Eli Finley, but Jeff, the schedule's also tough, I think.
That's where most of I go when we're talking about the everyone else category and why they kind of got put there. LSU and Baylor.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people like Baylor to win the Big 12. LSU is LSU. They're going to be a team that's physically different. Army at home. I'm high on Army. Louisiana right off the rip. ODU, like you get those at home, but you can be beat up because Army's going to beat you up. Louisiana's going to beat you up on the offense, in the trenches. Like lightens up towards the end, but I don't know if you make it to the end.
Jeff, they're going to get a welcome to the physicality of the Sun Belt class before they even get into the Sun Belt play.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my problem for La Tech. And, I love the addition of them to the Sun Belt after all the games were done being, played around with in the offseason. I love them being there for the regionality of the conference. But staying in the state of Louisiana, let's look at Monroe. These guys, Jeff, have started 3-1 the last 2 years, 5-1 in 2024. And then they don't win another game. I don't get it. They do really well in the non-con, but they just 5-1 to start in 2024. They lose out 5-7, 3-1 last year. They lose out. I mean, it's just been tough. It has been tough for Monroe.
Yeah, and I love Brian Vincent, and I think he's a program builder. I think this is a big year for him. Aiden's back at quarterback. I know they did get a transfer in as well. I don't know if he'll push him for playing time, but I mean, their non-conference isn't crazy. Mississippi State, UAB, Southeastern Louisiana, FAU. Then you roll right into it in South Alabama, Louisiana Tech. Like you do play Louisiana, Marshall. I still think it's just tough to win in Monroe, man. Like I know they've had some success, which is incredible for them. But you got to be able to finish the season, and they got some tough stretches at the end.
I think that UAB game will be fun because, Vincent was the interim there, and I think probably wanted the job, and then they hired Trent Dilfer. So I think they'll play up in that one. Keep an eye on Don Chaney at running back at Monroe. That guy, I remember him. He's a South Florida product out of Baylin Jesuit, by the way, all boys school down in Miami. He was a big time recruit. He's just on his fourth school now. Was at Charlotte last year, didn't really play. I think he was at Louisville before that, and then University of Miami before that. So like he keeps getting a chance, right? Let's see
this is it for him.
Yeah. Last but not least, Jeff, Southern Miss. What a roller coaster ride for this poor fan base, right? I mean, they had total control and had a chance to go to the Sun Belt title game, and then they lost 3 straight games at the end of the year. Probably had a lot to do with them knowing Huff was gone, and then players probably knowing they were going to just go with him. They just have nothing at all coming back, Jeff.
No, I mean, Huff took any of the relevant pieces with him to Memphis. Blake Anderson, I think it's going to take him some time. Southern Miss is a tough place to win at. Huff was able to do it, brought a ton of guys, were really most of the guys from Marshall over. You get Ethan Hampton transferring over at quarterback. Didn't overwhelm you at NIU. Liddy is there from a year ago, but when I'm looking at position group by position group, Jalen Himes at receiver coming over from Wingate was very productive there. I just don't know if they have enough. And then when you look at their schedule, I just think it's going to take them time. Auburn, UConn, Tulane, I don't know. You might get beat up before you get into conference, and they're not going to be deep with all the transfers they have.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Well, Jeff, give me a bold prediction for the Sun Belt 2026.
I'm going to go James Madison has a significant drop-off.
Oh, no.
My bold
Jeff,
prediction.
we worked so hard.
I know.
To build the bridge to Harrisonburg. Is it the Walsh Group? Are they is that the company that builds the bridges?
No,
we worked so hard for 2 years, Jeff,
I don't think they're going to be terrible, but I just have a feeling that if you lose all those pieces with a new coach coming in, as much as Sunbelt Billy is that guy, I think you have a drop off.
All right. My bold prediction is October 31st, Saturday night, Halloween night, App State at Georgia Southern will have massive conference title implications. That late in the season, those two are still going to be alive and well in the mix. Time to make a pick, Jeff. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
No, I'll go first.
Go for it.
I think out of the West, it's going to be Louisiana. With Lunch Winfield, with that offensive line and the skill guys, especially on the outside returning, I think their offense is going to be incredible, barring an injury to Winfield. So I got Louisiana. playing the Marshall Thundering Herd in the championship. Two of the best quarterbacks in conference going head to head. Terry Johnson, the Raging Cajuns, get it done, my friend. They get
Jeff,
it done.
Can we make a commitment now, today, on August 21, that if there is a championship game in Lafayette, that we go? Can we make this commitment? Barring there not being a championship game in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Barring that, I think it's pretty safe to say we will be there.
Because let me tell you something, if Middle Tennessee ends up in any type of championship game, you can bet your ass we'll be live all week from that thing.
Giving wall-to-wall coverage.
Yeah, wall-to-wall, Radio Row, Jeff and I. We might be the only ones, but we'll be there. Jeff, that's very interesting because I'm going the opposite.
Ooh.
But I'm going to take Marshall. I like this Marshall team a lot, Jeff. I do. I think for everything that you just said, and then I just think Marshall gets them in a championship game. Now, what I will add to that is huge implications where that game would end up being played. Because if that game's at Marshall in December, big difference between if that game's down in Louisiana.
Huge difference.
But that's interesting. We both went Marshall in Louisiana. Louisiana, I think, is not a hot take at all, but I think Marshall getting there is a little bit of a hot take, and we both went that route.
Just like who they're bringing back.
Book it. Book it now, Jeff.
We do have 2 voicemails, but we're already over. So what we're going to do is we're going to play those on Monday. So Iverson,
we're going to look
Josh
at
Bevel.
UConn.
We're
going to do a UConn deep dive.
There we go.
And then we'll do some voicemails. We'll start getting ready for week 0. Talk about the season as a whole. We did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it, Joe.
We did it. Well, hey, we appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you guys listening. If you like the show, or if you don't like the show, really don't care. Make sure you follow us on all the social platforms at Group of 5 Guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Believe Network, wherever you get your best podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. Tell your family and friends all about it. This is the Group of 5 Guys presented by FanDuel. Have a great final weekend of the off season. We're out of here.